just since that's gonna be the freshest in your mind. So, Desmond, what was your immediate impression or your impression right now is of what happened last night?
Well, I was sick to my stomach all leading up to it because having a background in journalism and editing, I got to do an assist with the editing process. So I got to read everyone's stories before it went to print. So I knew how high quality everyone's stories were. I knew that this volume is amazing. I mean, this is probably my favorite volume since 33. And uh, knowing the competition, I'm sick to my stomach up through the whole moment. And then I mean, the gala itself was amazing. I mean, you talk about 5-star treatment, the best salmon meal I've ever had. The presentations, the speeches, it was fantastic. So I'm trying to enjoy it, take it all in, and at the same time knowing this big moment may or may not be coming. And it was a very, very enjoyable experience.
That's awesome. And what about yourself, Zane?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same camp as Desmond when it came to competition and just being terrified as to whether or not I was actually going to make it this year. I mean, Larry and Tom were telling us the whole time this is one of the most stacked rosters we've ever had. We have like so many talented artists. We have like Brett, we have Tenzin who's in high school and he's in this competition. I mean, it was really nerve-wracking up to the point. And then when I actually ended up getting it, it felt like all that energy just released and I just exploded and I was just so happy. Like I didn't even prepare a speech because I wasn't sure if I was going to win.
And I told you, you guys, you proved me true yet again when we go over like okay, the whole thing on the event and acceptance speeches. Now you're able to go up and say, I had no idea. I didn't think it'd be me. I didn't prepare anything, and just it gets said. No matter how much I say, try to prepare something. It's invariably the first thing out of your mouth is, it so wasn't me. I just didn't, think at all. It was. So that's funny that you say that, even despite telling you.
Oh, I just didn't believe it. I was like, no, there's no way. And then it happened. It was crazy. It was really incredible. I mean, everyone there was so kind and the audience was so receptive. Like they were electric. Like they were just constantly like clapping and cheering and they were just really like on the same wavelength as all the illustrators and writers. I mean, it's such a great audience. I mean, it was an incredible event. I mean, that was one of the best desserts I've ever had. That was so good. Whatever that was, it was incredible.
Yeah, it's the Tagline complex, is just amazing. They are so service oriented, and they have their kitchens there. So they have 2 kitchens, so they're able to handle the 300 plus people we had last night in there with the salmon and the
It's like almost like a roast beef fillet type of piece.
It was filet mignon, but it was like I think 1.5 inches thick. And came asking, so how do you want this cooked? Medium rare, medium? And I said, well, let's push it towards the medium rare side because it's such good meat that they use.
Oh, you can taste the purity of it. I'm like, oh
yeah. And that's like I said, both the filet and the salmon is just amazing. But you said the dessert obviously left you the lasting impression that special chocolate mousse with a vanilla cream filling on it. It's just, and they make all that stuff too.
Incredible. It was really amazing. I mean, my mind was blown. I was like looking over to Larry and Larry was looking over to me and we were thinking the same thing about that dessert.
So, all right. So the event itself, like what was the highlight in terms of the speakers or any of the impression? Because we had so many things. We had that poem from L. Ron Hubbard. Well, actually started with the song "Men of Reason," and then we had that the opening video, which gives a bit of the history of the contest. We also then had the poem from Battlefield Earth, and then we had obviously the general's keynote speech. We had the video, which is it's the only recorded video of the Frank Frazetta, the artist there, and they'd seen photos of him and never seen him actually talking in video type stuff because nothing exists out there on that. And and then the general with his keynote speech, and then obviously the announcement of these two dudes as the grand prize winners. So for you, I just kind of like ran through the night. Just anything. What are the standouts for you on the event of that?
My goodness, that opening up, talking about opening up with a bang, the song Men of Reason brought to life with this amazing singer who sang it with such passion and genuine animation. It was visual storytelling along with the music. I just felt amped up, like, oh man, we just started a concert here. Let's go. That was a perfect way to open it. And then the general's speech was really, really relevant. He being the recently retired commander of the Air and Missile Complex here in California was extremely relevant because he being leading the cutting edge mission of the Air and Space Force as the emerging technology, and of course he's a avid sci-fi fan. He's kind of a unique perspective as to where the world is going, could go, and the importance of that, and he was able to share that with that. So as both a writer and someone who appreciates that emerging world as well, that was really neat to see. And then of course the reading of the poem was so powerful.
Declaration of Peace.
The Declaration of Peace poem, that was really, just the presentation was so artistically done that you felt the theme come out and reach and touch you, make you think, oh, I'm feeling something, I'm thinking something, and which is what art is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Zaine?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything that Desmond said, but not to retread on that territory. One of the most impactful things to me was the Frazetta talk. Frazetta's been my hero since I was like a kid. Like, I've loved his work. Like, for Conan, I've like always had that image up all the time, and it's just beautiful. And what he said about design coming first and the idea coming first is super, super important. I mean, he really, really knew what he was doing. He was an incredible technical painter, but he put his concepts before his technical paintings. He did a lot of interesting stuff with his anatomy, and interesting, I mean, he kind of fudged it, but it looked perfect because it matched his design, and it was great. I mean, everything that he made was incredible, and he'd do it like a day or two in advance of the deadline. Like, he was really, really awesome. So actually getting to see him talk, it's like, oh my God, it's like I just saw like Moses talking or something. It was absurd. I mean, it's like something out of a dream to see that man. I think as soon as I get to Florida again, I live pretty close to Boca Grande, so I can go straight to the Frazetta Museum and just hang out over there and go look at some of his work.
Yeah, what we'll do after this, I will connect you up then with Sarah Frazetta. She's the granddaughter, and to set up a tour.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be so cool.
Okay, good. Yeah, she's. I mean, obviously they're good friends, and so we'll definitely we'll arrange that. So now, your journey as an illustrator. So you started
Oh,
when?
I started, let's see, I started like just like being interested in illustration when I was really, really young. I think I was like 6 or 7. And I used to draw with my mom all the time because she always nurtured my creative spirit. And she like kept pushing me to draw. She'd buy me sketchbooks and she would do all this awesome stuff for me. Um, and then, it slowly developed over time. Like, I live right next to the Ringling Museum, so we went there a lot, and I got to draw like sculptures. I got to look at all the paintings. I mean, it was really, really inspiring. I got to see some of the greats when I was really, really young. When I was like 8 years old, I didn't appreciate it as much as I appreciate it now. Like, if I could do the same thing for my kids, take them there and see those incredible paintings and sculptures, I mean, that'd be a life-changing experience. But I'm sure they'd take it for granted too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just developed over time. I really, really loved the medium. It just
So the medium is specifically is using Photoshop or pencil or watercolor or.
Yeah. Well, it started out as pencil when I was young, and then it moved forward to watercolor, and then it moved forward to acrylic, and then finally to oil, which was in high school. And that was when I used to buy a bunch of really cheap masonite, which these big, like giant
Sure.
boards, and I'd gesso them up, and then I'd slap them into the classroom, and I'd start painting oils on them. And I used to go out all around. I used to take my bike and these huge canvases and like an easel, and I would just drive around my not just my neighborhood, but the whole like county in my little bike. And I would just set up and I would paint all day. And then I'd come back home and it'd be night and I'd be like, oh, this painting's terrible, but at least I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a heck of a lot from it. Every single time I did it, I learned something new. So those terrible paintings progressively got a little less terrible every single time. And when it came to actually coming into university, like going to college, I
And
went.
it's quite a testament itself saying that, oh, yeah, I go to Ringling. It's like it's already known as one of the top art colleges, art schools in America.
Oh yeah, they chew us up. I mean, they're they're fantastic. I mean, they really push their students, especially students that they see are like driven. They push them to their limits. Like I've had many nights where I've slept 2 hours or less because, I work early in the morning all the way up to the evening, and I'm not working on one painting. I'm working on like two or three at a time because I don't like to spend 100 hours on one painting. I like to spend 20 hours on 5 paintings. And I think that's just a better way to do it. I think that's the way that Frazetta would do it too. So I'm like, if there's anyone to emulate, it's got to be him. I mean, he's legendary.
That's awesome. So now, how far along are you at Ringling?
I'm in my senior year. I have about a month left to graduate. My thesis is due in about a week.
Have
Congratulations.
you started it?
Oh, heck yeah. I've been on my thesis. It's just, we took a quick
took this
break for
intermission
this.
here.
Yeah, take a
Yes.
quick intermission. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm willing to spend an extra however many hours over the next couple weeks, or I guess week, to get all those illustrations done. I can handle it. I mean, I got a huge support system. I mean, my dad, my brother, my girlfriend, my mom, all of them are there to support me and, make sure that I'm not like having a mental breakdown after all these paintings.
That's great. Thanks. Now, Desmond, yourself, your journey.
Well, it started out as being a reader. I remember in preschool being upset that my best friend could read and I couldn't. So learned how to read. And then in by second grade, I was reading as much as I could. There was the accelerated reader program, the book it program that incentivized reading, and you got to take quizzes and mark progress, and that was really fun. So I did that, and I remember trying to check out. I think it was a modest novel, modest sci-fi novel. And the librarian said, this book's too big for you. You need to pick out another one. I remember being really upset at that. Like, no, I want to read this one. But she won. That's okay. And then by, I think it was somewhere around 13 or 14 or so, I was checking out all the trade paperbacks that I could out of the public library. One of those was the Star Trek Strange New Worlds anthology that Dean Wesley Smith edited, which was exactly what it sounds like, a collection of Star Trek stories. Loved it. At the end of it, realized it was a contest where fans were creating essentially fan fiction and sending it in for submission to be published. And it dawned on me at that moment that these weren't like pro writers, these were fan writers, and I could be a fan writer if I wanted, because I like stories and I can tell stories. So,
And by the way, Dean, he's unabashedly says I 100% copied Writers of the Future in
yes.
creating that contest.
Yes, he did right off the bat. As soon as we met him during our workshop, he said that did the Star Trek Strange New Worlds anthology, which, by the way, we ripped off from Writers of the Future, which I did not know that, but the format is identical.
Yeah.
I mean, minus the Writers of the Future, of course, the incentive to win is to come and do the workshop and learn from the industry leaders, whereas with Strange New Worlds, it was publication.
Publication.
Mm-hmm. So But yeah, the format was identical.
Yeah.
Really, really neat. So I started writing for that. I didn't get picked up, but it was that chasing that dream and then learning how to format manuscripts, learning, how to tell stories, the elements of storytelling all along the way. In the internet age, you could pick up that stuff. There is no limit to learning. And so I just kept doing that and doing that. And then about 4 years ago, I learned about Writers of the Future from a Volume 33 winner, Stephen Lawson. We work in the same industry, and I came across a story that was written about him winning. So I emailed him and said, hey, professional writing is what I'm aiming for too. Do you have any suggestions of how to get there? He said, check out Writers of the Future. That's the great way to go. And here we are today.
Absolutely. That's so cool. So now, just curious, did you have anybody watching you last night?
Oh, of course.
You were by yourself at the event last night, right?
Yeah.
But did you have any people watching you at the?
Oh, yeah.
What was their reaction?
Absolutely. They were ecstatic. I mean, my dad, my brother, my mom, my a close family friend, my girlfriend, they were all watching and texting me the whole time. My girlfriend's friends were watching because she told them to watch because they were banking on me winning. And that made me so happy. I mean, it was so amazing to get all the feedback from everyone. And my dad was making Instagram posts where he's recording it and like reacting.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, that's great. That kind of support. And then yourself, Desmond.
I'm still trying to go through the texts. I'm still trying to catch up. Yeah, that's a really awesome thing to have that live streamed and live stream broadcast so that everyone can be a part of it. I mean, that's like I said in my speech last night. I was one of those people watching the live broadcast before I started entering, and then living vicariously through authors coming up on stage and living in that moment and saying, I'd like to do that. I think I'm going to try to do that. And so, of course, yeah, the family's freaking out, friends freaking out. I have, some writer friends that are considering going in the direction of, perhaps working up the courage to put themselves out there. I hope that them seeing what can happen when you do through, for my avenue was Writers of the Future. And it's, even if I hadn't received the golden pen, the workshop has paid dividends that will last a lifetime. Like, you don't even understand the quality of and saturation of knowledge from everything from the elements of storytelling to the business end. I just hope that people get some sense through the speeches I made of how amazing this Writers of the Future opportunity is, and throw yourself out there, start submitting stories. Don't get discouraged if if you don't place as high as you want to. Just take that as encouragement to keep submitting different stories until one hits, because that means you're on the right track.
Yeah. And just one comment too about that is some of them originated, and every year they'll talk about, I've been entering since the 90s. I've been entering, this was my 19th submission. There is that rare, first or second submission winning, but mostly it's many submissions that it takes to win over a period of years. And sometimes people are working on it, like C.V. Haskell. She was, she'd won it, and then she just kind of like totally stopped. She was like, I can't handle this. And then 2.5 years ago, she picked it up again and said, okay, that's it. And I'm going to enter every quarter in the contest. And she did. And then, got built up the honorable mention and then the silver and then was a winner. It just takes that. And as was very obvious last night at the awards ceremony with people making their speeches, not everybody's all this big extroverted. Oh yeah. It's like some people are very, very shy, very nervous. It's not just on stage, it's in life too. So it's just, what the journal was saying at the speech. It's like, when he gave that one quote, that he read, it's the doers. They're the ones that really make the difference, instead of thinking about doing. It's like actually just going out there doing it and, getting dirty, muddy, injured, bleeding. It's like it's kind of like what it is, what you go through. And I think one thing that dawned on me is there aren't a whole lot of crucibles for the writers out there
That's right.
as there are for the artists. In order to get into Ringling, you had to already go through a process not dissimilar to winning the Illustrators of the Future, because it's not like, okay, I've got some money, I want to go to Ringling. It doesn't work like that on those types of schools. You've got to come in there with your entry ticket is some awesome art before you even can step foot on the other side of that classroom threshold.
Yeah, I mean, some schools even require like specific things in their portfolio that you have to make in a short amount of time to get in there in the first place. I mean, artists, like, we really get dragged through it. And then even when we apply for jobs, even if they love our portfolios, they still art test us, which means we have to, after the interview process is over, they send us an assignment and we do it for them to prove that we can do what they want. And if we don't get it, we just did a bunch of art for free. And man, that sucks, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. I mean, artists are just dragged through it, but it's okay. I mean, we're resilient creatures. I mean, look at Larry and Tom. They spent 20 years sleepless, just working their tails off. I mean, it's just the reality of the industry. And yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the guys at the top, it's not something like they were born with a gift and just kind of like, here's my next creation. Come, people, I'll sell it to you for, no,
Yeah,
not at all.
it's not glamorous. It's dirty. It's nasty. I mean, everyone there's a fighter. Everyone coming to the top. I mean, they're really, really strong people.
But one thing is like the judges that we have here, I mean, they're amazingly talented and they worked like you said, their guts out in order to make it where they are, but they are so welcoming to you and to you as winners and wanting to step up beside me now. And that's one thing that it's not that it doesn't exist elsewhere, but that is definitely what writers and illustrators of the future is, and the judges to be able to. I mean, that's how it was originally created by Warren Hubbard. That was his legacy that he did, and he was the first coordinating judge for the illustrators. The person that started, Frank Kelly Freas, in the book on Master Storyteller about Warren Hubbard, he has an intro where he just talks about what it was like working with him, because he would illustrate some of his stories in the golden age, and he talked about I don't know if he was the only one, but the standout author for him that actually took the time to talk to them as an author, which the authors then were quite, elitist. And he would take the time to go talk to the artists and thank them, and just he said it was so unusual.
Oh, yeah. So I was thinking about some things that L. Ron Hubbard said about the 100,000 words thing. We have something really similar in the art industry, and it may have stemmed from that, where it's like you need to have 10,000 hours of painting before you even start to approach a painting style.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's it makes sense, because when you start off, you emulate your favorites. You try, okay, because you don't have your own style, so you can say, I love Frazetta, so I'm going to start doing that. And then I really love, Van Gogh. I'm going to try some of that. Keep your ear on, but otherwise, emulate that.
Yeah, you're like a big like homunculus of everyone else's styles until you finally develop that, and you had that breakthrough moment where you're like, yeah, this is me. I'm not this person. This is me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you have something like that yourself? Because you talked about doing like fan fiction stuff at the get-go with the Star Trek, trying to submit for that. Did you have something where you went, okay, I'm writing in other worlds before you did your own world, or did you automatically start, okay, here's my world, I'm going to create it. Okay, this is junk. Okay, here's the next one. Okay, and then gradually build up. How does that work for you?
Definitely started in the Star Trek world. I love that world. Among all others, is just having grown up in that storytelling world and series is very close to my heart. And so yeah, definitely started out in that world, and then I'm kind of a standalone feature film type of a guy at this point. So I haven't written a whole lot of pieces that are set in the same world. There's a few, and obviously that's very important to where we're at in this point of the industry. That's what readers want. Readers want to be invested into a continuing world. So I am bringing some pieces together to fit that format, because you want to make the readers happy, because that's what it's all about, is sharing that world, sharing those stories with those who can join you in that adventure. Have
Yeah.
as much fun reading as you did writing. So yeah, right now it's mainly a little bit of hard sci-fi, a lot of psychological sci-fi or psychological fantasy, paranormal stuff like that. Basically, if the stuff that I love to watch and read, I'll turn it around and put it on paper, because I want to have fun. At the end of a story, when I'm done with it and I go back and reread and start doing edits, and it's not boring and drab to do edits, when I'm having fun doing edits, rereading, I know that, oh yes, this was a good one.
Yeah. So what do you, so as an artist, where do you want to be able to take your career? What's your current vision of what you want to do?
My current vision, I want to work in the games industry. I want to be able to reach a lot of people with my art. I think that's why I like the games industry. They're so widely circulated, and being known as like a game artist or a concept artist or a really, really good modeler, people will kind of recognize that work and they'll see it as part of these big projects and say, hey, I like that piece, or I like that little character. I like the way that barrel looks over there. Um, yeah, I just want to reach as many people as possible. I just love when people can see my work. Even if I can't hear what they have to say about it, I'm just happy they're seeing it.
So which judge or which part of the workshop best resonated with you then, based upon that?
Based upon that, I think Max had a great lecture about game design, and I actually linked up with her on.
So Max is Irmak Kevun. She was our winner last year. She's from Turkey, just an amazing artist, and that's why I invited her specifically, because I really liked her a lot last year. Okay, she's somebody I need to stay in direct touch with. So I called. You would like to come speak? Sure.
Yeah, I mean that was a great decision because she works directly in the games industry. She works for 2K now, it's a big company. So I've been linking up with her on LinkedIn. We've been talking back and forth, and
Oh, that's great.
told her about the win last night, and she's like super excited, and she's thinking about hiring me or getting one of her friends to hire me for a project that they're working on. So it's like there's so many amazing connections. I was even talking to Tom and Echo because I'm a 3D modeler by trade, like my actual job that I work right now while I'm doing school, while I'm
Okay.
doing all this. I work as a 3D modeler for a games company in Florida. And so Tom and Echo and everyone were like, hey, do you want to do 3D models for us? Do you want to do this? You want to do that? I'm like, heck yeah, I can do that. I don't mind working 3 or 4 jobs. I can handle it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's one of the things that's really cool tool about how all of a sudden it just starts clicking, the connections. And there's, some major authors that have gotten their start, obviously with the contest. And then from there, a judge, like Patrick Rothfuss, he wrote this series that's, which is the final book's coming out, pretty soon, but he was taken under the wing by Kevin Anderson, introduced him to his agent, and that's how he got his launch, and there's, just so many different writers and artists, but the main thing is connecting up. You got the art illustrator and the writer says, can you do my next cover? Can you do this cover? And it just goes click and it just starts sparking really fast amongst everybody. That's such a cool story.
Yeah. Oh, I had a lot of cool stories from my time here. It's great. Yeah, the connections part is huge. I mean, I used to not be super social. I used to like being my artist and just laying in my artist hole doing my paintings, but I started like really branching out and trying to get everyone together, and I've just like talking to everyone, like doing group chats with everyone, getting everyone close together, setting up lunches and stuff. And I remember when Larry first talked, I waited till the end of the
We're talking
presentation.
about Larry Elmore here.
Yeah, Larry Elmore. And we were all
creator of all the original Dungeons and Dragons art. Just him.
Yeah, he's legendary. But he was so amazing. He's like this amazing like art grandpa. He's so great. And I just waited till the end of the talk, and he was just talking to people, and then I was the last one in line. Then I talked his ear off. He talked my ear off, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to take this conversation somewhere else? Do you want to go get lunch?" And I just took him out to lunch, and I just had lunch with Larry Elmore when I first met him.
No, that's something that it's unreal to the general layman, but to a specialist, like as an artist, as a writer, being able to just go sit down and we have our barbecue, and there you are, chatting with Larry Niven, who's like a god of science fiction.
Were we sitting with Larry Elmore at the after party last night?
Yeah, the
Oh
old
my
guy
gosh.
with the glasses and the little beard.
Me and my wife were sitting next to Larry Elmore at the after party last night, just hanging out. And I had no idea because, I hadn't got to intersect a whole lot with the illustrators. We're only writers of the future, man. We're sitting down with living legends, like regular folk, and just having a good time. And I had no idea until now. Oh my gosh, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Larry's just a regular guy that it just so happens to be one of the most influential painters for Dungeons and Dragons ever.
And Dragonlance following that.
Yeah,
Good Lord,
he created all the Dragonlance stuff. That's even more popular.
Mm-hmm.
That's him.
Only at Riders of the Future, man.
Yeah, Larry's great. I got some old fashions with him. It was fantastic.
Oh, man.
He's got a good taste.
Yes, definitely. So now on the workshop, so we've addressed that a little bit. So you said Max with one that resonated best with you, which I figured that would be your answer after you described what you wanted to do. So yourself, Desmond, who would be the person or persons that best resonated with you on the workshops? Because you've had so many people talking to you.
Yeah, that's a really, really tough question because each and every one brought something different and something top notch. So we spent the most time this round with Tim Powers and Jody Lynn and I. They were our head instructors, and they brought a lot of the how to tell better stories, whereas then Robert Sawyer and Dean Wesley Smith brought a lot of the here's how you do business after the fact, which is something that hugely important, but as an emerging creative person, you don't necessarily think about. You're just hyper focused on how do I get my words out. So, and then that's very, very tough. But each one of them bringing a master's class in their topic in the course of a few hours, and I'm just furiously taking notes. But I tell you this, the Writers of the Future digital,
The online workshop?
The online workshop, virtual, free. If you want to learn how to take your storytelling to the next level, that is what you need to sign up and enroll in.
And it's free.
It is free. It is self-paced to an extent, like it's video lessons and assignments over a set course of time, and that investing in that time investment of doing that course, which is the same instructors as here, it's just done virtually over video. That was the difference between honorable mention placements, silver honorable mentions, and then placing first and then golden pen. There was nothing in between. I was hitting honorable mention, silver honorable mention. I take the course, apply what I learned in the course, boom, first place.
That's great.
Sign up for that course.
So it's not the same as what you do when you're here as a winner.
Correct.
But it's the same grounding. It's the basis, the framework is there.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's cool too, I've just recorded a next lesson from Robert J. Sawyer, Nadia Corafor, and then Kevin Anderson, who will be 3 new lessons on the online workshop. We'll promote that to anybody that's already taken it, can do these videos, and it needs to be edited and everything. But I just recorded them. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Rob was he's just, his whole talk on the subject of characterization and, everybody's a robot, it's because they're made exactly for that function. They're not real people. They can't be, because a real person has got, you're all over the place, and his story has got to be focused there. And then Nettie did a whole segment on self-critiquing and how to do that and why it's so important.
Wow.
And then Kevin obviously has just amazing on the business of writing. So for yourself now, as an artist, like I said, it's a bit different for the illustrators than it is for the writers, because you've, at least for yourself, being Ringling. I don't think not everybody's. It's like you've already gone through your gauntlet, with people beating you, like that, to make it to where you're at a certain level. And so, how many times did you have to enter to win? One?
I wish. No, not one. I think I entered for an entire year. I think I entered all 4 quarters, and eventually I got it, and it was incredible. I was so excited. I mean, Joni called me on the phone when I was getting back from the beach, because I love the beach and all, but I actually went to go see the storm at the beach because I thought that'd be super cool. And then, we just so happened to miss the storm. So we just got back and we were in a little bit of a huff. And then I got the call from Joni, and she told me I won. And I was like, well, what did I win? She's like, oh, you won the Illustrators of the Future. I'm like, what? I didn't think I was going to win, because I applied so many quarters. I got semifinalist twice, and, I actually got it. And I was just so happy. I was over the moon.
That's great. And how many times did you enter, Desmond?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't keep track of the losses. I think keeping
How many years have you been trying?
I think keeping tracking of losses is a distraction to keeping track for the wins.
Okay, good.
But I do think it was
enough.
somewhere around between like 4 to 6 times, 4 to 6 entries over since 2017. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's very rare that somebody. The reason I'm asking this isn't to like rehash your losses, but for the people listening to this, that you need to have that, or I'll actually ask you, the takeaway of being able to enter the contest repeatedly. Like, what's then a big piece of advice that you could then provide based on what you went through, and we'll get back to you as well, to an aspiring writer, like, so you submit, maybe you don't even find out why it wasn't a
That's right. Yeah.
win. You just get like, thank you very much, submit again. Why should you not stop there?
Yeah, there's a couple really good reasons why you should not stop on that, because you will get form letter rejections all the time in every aspect of the industry without telling you why, and that's standard. So in this context specifically, you want to submit multiple times. You have 4 opportunities a year to submit, because you can have a variety of submissions. Now, Joni will email you and say, hey, even if you don't have anything new, submit something that you've already submitted, just so that you can put your name back in the bucket. Because the nature of the book, you may have a really good story, but because of the length of the book, because of the other types of stories that are already going to be in there, like some of the business ends, it may be a good story, but it may not fit for that volume. There's some logistical aspects to everything that goes in there as well. So variety, you're being challenged to create and produce. 2, once you knock out that course, your skill set is going to be elevated, I believe, and you can validate on the stats here, but it's well known that after that digital workshop was released, the quality of both quality and quantity of entries into the contest escalated significantly.
Considerably, that's right.
So I'm not jealous of the judges having to do their job. It's got to be becoming extremely difficult.
It is a fact that as the quality of storytelling goes up, and it is a very much a date coincidence that when we issued the online workshop, because Dave Farland said it is so much harder now, and you can see the number of honorable mentions spiked that year. when we launched it, because of people learn so much, so we took a lot of time out of a person's arc to becoming a writer, and what we're looking for. And obviously Rise of Futures and market, we're looking for the PG stories. We're looking for pretty much an uptick. We want positive. We want something, good. So we were like, okay, a good resolution, not a resolution where the protagonist is killed by her brother at the end. We're not going to do that, So anyway, I cut you off there, but that what you're saying there is absolutely true, that the competition is increased considerably, and it's way harder for the judges to select, because instead of having maybe 1 cubit of good stories or 1 cubit of good art, you now have 5 or 10 cubits, and I'm just using a fictitious right now quantity, so I'm not saying numbers here, but it's just a lot more to choose from because of this. So on the illustration, on the workshop, it's grown a lot, it's changed a lot over the years, because illustration, when we first started the contest, it really was Illustrators of the Future, because it was illustration of book covers, the inside panels for stories, and that's who the original judges were. And these are some of the biggest names in art who were the first judges, so like Will Eisner, and there's an Eisner Award for him. He's the one that's the grandfather of sequential art comic books. But we've had to go and move in the direction, like you said, we had Max who talked, but we also have all the different formats and stuff. So any particular comment on the array of art direction that is provided in the contest, and anything else that you think would even improve on it?
Yeah, I think there's an incredible array. I mean, Larry's a traditional painter. I mean, you don't see many of those nowadays. So he was incredibly, incredibly important in just teaching work ethic. I think that's something that everyone should take away from his talks. Larry Elmore works harder than anyone that I've ever heard from. Like, he really, really showed the ugly side of art, but it's something that everyone should grow to appreciate. I think he had some really incredible things to say. Tom was the same way, but Tom moved into digital before a lot of other people did. He started using Photoshop in the 90s. So, he was there to see it grow. So Tom had some great insight on the digital side of art, especially, or at least the 2D digital side. And then Echo had a lot to say about the business of art, because she's incredible at marketing herself and, selling her brand. I mean, she's really, really widely circulated. So it was great to hear about all the business stuff and how to price and how to handle customers and how to, sell yourself as an artist. And then Max was, she's newer, so she is there for that part of the game industry. She's, telling us about substance designer and substance painter and all these programs that I love talking shop about, because, that's my job. So it was incredible just to have the wide array that it is. I mean, if there's any way to improve it, I mean, I guess just have some more, maybe have a strict, somebody that does 3D modeling as their job, maybe. I don't know. It was almost, I think it was perfect. Honestly, I think it was perfect. I think there was such a great variety of people in there, and so many different perspectives, and it's been valuable to everyone else.
That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Yeah. So for yourself, in terms of just the array of what's covered in the workshop?
Like I said, a lot more than I expected, anticipated, and so grateful, because you can't see what's coming. You don't know what you don't know. Really, that virtual workshop is like a writer 10 or storytelling 101. When we get here, they're expounding or building on that already. So we got deeper into the elements of storytelling. If you don't have a baseline knowledge when you get here, then you may get lost real fast. So one, I mean, if you're writing and submitting, you at least have some knowledge of storytelling. If you take that virtual workshop, you're gonna be good to go. And then 3, you get here and we start deep diving into how to take it to the next level. That was about the first half of the workshop. And then we bring in the experts who are making a living writing, and they share, hey, this is how I got here. This is what you need to be thinking about as someone who's going to be financially, successful, and thinking you need to be thinking, here's the things you need to be thinking about now so you don't make the same mistakes I made when I was in your shoes, because this world could pick up really fast. You're in a position now, because writers of the future, you're in a position now where you need to start thinking about this stuff and not make mistakes in the business end. So hugely important, and the quality of experience and information, everything from the storytelling to idea generation to today we're talking about how to do conventions. We had a class on professionalism, which you think would be self-explanatory. It is not in the world of entertainment. You gave an amazing talk about how to give an acceptance speech, things that should be self-explanatory, but it's not. So this course is the full package of how to be the creative professional that you want to be. And there's nothing else like it out there.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So on that's Mr. Hubbard's vision of what he was doing with this. I mean, he has several essays, both on art as well as on writing, but they actually commingle there. The art is, because he defines art as like the quality of communication. So any particular essay or principle from Mr. Hubbard that really resonated with you, Zaine?
Yeah, I think the art is communication. I mean, that's my job as a 3D modeler, as a concept artist. That's literally the job description. It's all about the idea and how you communicate the idea to the audience. I think that is one of the most important takeaways, especially for younger guys that are trying to get into concept, like Ari and Tenzin. Both of them want to be in concept. So that's the way to do it. Focus on your ideas, have cool ideas, have a good design language, and know how to solve those design problems that communicate those ideas as efficiently as possible.
Good. And yourself, Desmond?
Yeah. So preface this with that, L. Ron Hubbard came from an educated family, lived a life of travel where he got to experience different world cultures. And I think that developed and gave him the thirst for knowledge. So he sought out knowledge and just learned left and right. And then, deep dived into the world of how the mind interacts with the body. Put all that together. His essay on suspense really stood out to me, because it turns out suspense is the underlying element to driving plot. It's a universal concept that you may call it different things. Suspense doesn't necessarily mean horror or thriller like I would have thought before I came here. Suspense is the thing that drives the plot forward and keeps the reader having to turn the page over and over. And I got to ask Larry Niven during one of our talks during dinner, and said, how do you keep suspense, or what's your philosophy on keeping suspense going? And Larry's a pretty straightforward guy, and he says, well, you just keep it going. and you'd have to know, get to know him to understand, like, that deadpan is just like he was communicating. It is as simple as that. You just keep escalating, you just keep hitting it up, you keep driving it forward. And that essay, I'm not going to give away too much because I want you to read it so that you can understand it and soak it in.
Which is in the online workshop.
Mm-hmm, it is.
You can get the whole essay. And just as a last little bit of a plug on this, on the workshop too, we transcribed all the videos so that you can take Google Translate. So regardless of where you're from, you can translate all the videos as well as the essays into your own language and read what Mr. Hubbard is saying, as well as what Tim Powers, Orson Scott Card, and David Farland is saying.
Oh, it's so generous. Awesome. Yeah. Suspense was the one that resonated the most with me, and you highly recommend you read it, and you will understand a deeper dimension of why stories captivate us.
Good. So now on, we've got about 8 minutes left here. So, what would Zaine, what would you like to be able to communicate to the aspiring artist? Either things that you had to overcome, because you had a great speech last night. It was really, really nice. So you definitely had points where you're ready to just quit, throw in the towel. Okay, that's it. I can't handle it. So talk a little bit about that and what made you decide, okay, I'm going to persist.
Well, first of all, it's great to have somebody to support you. Like my girlfriend, she supported me through that. But I would say just have a change in your mindset. Don't feel bad for yourself. Don't think, oh, I can't get through this. Because then you end up not doing anything because you're just thinking about not being able to do it. You just think it's never going to get any better. Just push through. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get faster. Everything will fall into place if I just keep working and I keep staying strong in my mind. There's
Now,
no.
you had a thing that happened, though. It's easy
Oh,
to
yeah.
say when you're on the other side of that
Yeah.
wall,
Yeah.
but when you're on the wrong side of the wall, so talk about that, because I think that's
Yeah.
going to be more real to
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that are struggling.
Yeah, so for a little while, I was actually like incredibly miserable with my work. And like, I worked a job and I did school at the same time. I'm still doing it. But yeah, I was just coming back home and complaining and telling my girlfriend about all this stuff that I hated. And I was like, I'm tired of this. It's not getting any better. I thought it was going to get better. It's not getting any better. And she told me she was tired of hearing me complain. And I was like, I was stunned. I was like, what? What? You're tired of hearing me complain? And she was like, yeah, it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. So you just need to change the way you think about this. You need to just understand that you're going to improve as an artist and everything is going to fall into place as long as you don't break. Just don't break. And I was so close to breaking. Like I was almost ready to just stop being an artist and just be like, okay, I'm just going to do like maybe I'll be a texture artist for a living, just work with nodes and like do like all this technical stuff. No, she pushed me to keep doing what I was doing. And I think being able to persevere is incredibly important as an artist. You have to be able to do it's not just like a long walk or a long run, it's a long sprint. It's a lifetime sprint, and you just need to be ready for that. I know it sounds terrible, but it's one of the most gratifying jobs you could ever possibly have. You get to see yourself grow. Like, not only as an artist, but as a person. Like your art develops with you. The more you experience in life, the better your art gets. So I think being an artist is incredible, and you just need to persevere. And if you're applying for jobs, especially in the games industry, you're going to need to apply for hundreds before you get a response back. And sometimes those interviews don't come through. You'll go to the second one and they'll say, no, we don't want you. And you just keep reapplying. Do the same thing with this competition and everything will fall into place.
That's awesome. And yourself, Desmond, anything where you had that same type of thing where it's advice for the aspiring writer, but where you were almost ready to say, or maybe you already did throw in the towel and then had to have the towel through the laundry and back in again?
No, I've never wanted to throw in the towel, but there were things that got in my way,
Mhm.
and and here's what got me out of my own way, and I touched on it a little bit last night, but that you have to never stop learning. Um, I don't know what I'm doing, and that is why I am successful in anything in life, because I'm seeking out to learn how and why to be better. If you think that you know what you're doing,